urgent plans, try and postpone them because there could be some awesome action that unfolds in the next few moments. Okay, folks, well, it sounds like Brent has got himself into quite an exciting situation. So while we continue towards Shadow Cub, we're still a few minutes away. I think you should join in with Brent and some alarm calls that he's listening to. We'll see you all a little bit later.
I said I was listening for... Welcome back, everyone. Vim and I have made our way back into this area where we last had those leopard tracks, and we've just been sitting really quietly and trying to listen for alarm calls. Unfortunately, nothing yet. But I know I got asked about a flower and what flowers flower in the winter. I've been asked a few times, and I've looked long and hard, and probably the most beautiful of these flowers is it's called an impala lily. And I haven't seen any growing here, but where we're staying at the moment, in the Manuleti, they do have a plant. Unfortunately, it's a little bit sickly, but still a really, really beautiful flower, and one of the most bright of the winter flowering plant species. So absolutely stunning. The tree, or the bush itself that the flower comes from, I don't really have a good picture. So it's a succulent, so it's quite large. You can get to about 1.5 meters in height. But it is an absolutely stunning flower. Very, very intricate if we come back into the staples here. And it's pollinated mostly by robber flies, and you can see the very fine little hairs, but an absolutely exquisite. Unfortunately, looking a little worse for wear, this one at the moment, but it has traveled some distance with me today. Don't worry, I only took a tiny little branch off a really big one, so lots of other flowers on it still, but absolutely exquisite. You can see the tiny hairs if I turn. And the pollen will be attached to those, so when the insects might climb in there and brush up against it, and that'll help with the pollination. So there's a flower. No, we get asked for quite a few flowers, but unfortunately in the winter months it's very, very difficult. And I've actually searched quite long and hard today. Oh no, now where's it gone? I found only one other flower, which I seem to have misplaced. So give me half a second and I'll see if I can find it again. I just had it, maybe. Where did I put it? Did you see where I put it, Vim?
No. The impala got it.
Maybe the impala got it, yep. I think I might have fallen down next to my box here. I just saw it as we went across the down wall. Oh dear. I might have to find another one. That could be a challenge in itself. I'll see if I find it a little bit later. I hope it hasn't fallen out. Anyway, I've got a feeling Karula the Sneaky has managed somehow to get around us, and her track's going up and down, and I think she might be back towards the western side of the waterhole and snuck around towards that little waterhole around Gallagher. So I'm going to go have a look in that area. Well done, Kathleen, Jerry, Lisa, and Donna, and James, who got the answers to that hole in the bank question correct, it's probably a bee eater or a kingfisher, probably one of the insectivorous kingfishers like brown hooded and striped, although they do sometimes nest in holes in wood, or probably white-fronted bee eaters, just judging from the size of those holes. And everyone seems to be spot on. The reason it's on those sheer banks, they take the risk of being washed away, but it doesn't happen that often. And having their nests on those really high banks keeps them safe from snakes and monitor lizards and mongooses. It's near impossible for a predator to actually get into those holes. So well done, guys. Thanks very much for all the feedback on that. And from that, we've got a question from Heidi in Canada, who would like to know whether a bat would live in a hole like that. Heidi, it is very unlikely, even if it is a solitary bat species, they need a sort of a launch pad. And for them to come out vertical would be quite difficult. They need to sort of come from the upside down position to drop. Even the little free-tailed bats and that would prefer. They actually prefer roofs, believe it or not, where they can get a nice drop off. I would not say it's impossible, but I've never heard of a bat living in an area or in a hole like that. But most of our bats here would roost in trees. Very so. We don't have that many caves in this particular area, but in other places in the Sabi Sands to the south of us, there are some areas where they would nest in crevices. But the most common dwelling of most bats in this area is human habitation. They like to make your rooms very smelly. So this is where I'm hoping the Karula has snuck around, went through this block and maybe come down to this area. So we're going to cross back to Scotty, who has returned to Sindile and Shadow on an impala kill, and he better thank my lucky feather. But enjoy your time with Scotty. Hopefully you have a spectacular sighting of those wonderful leopards.
Welcome back, everyone. And this is Sindile. And look at his bloated belly. He will continue to feed, hopefully for the next 24 hours, on an impala that his mother killed today. It's quite thick bush here, so in order for us to get you a decent visual of him, we have put ourselves in a spot where we can't actually see his mother's shadow very well. We can just see one or two spots. Nor can we very easily see the impala kill. But Brian is going to do his best to show you the whole scene here and where everything is. Shadow is lying behind that fallen down tree, and as Brian zooms in, you may notice one or two spots, and then he's gone in past where Shadow is lying, and then you can see the impala. You can just see a little bit of his horn sticking up, I think. No, you can't. But you can see where they've been plucking off the fur, those little white marks, and they fed on a fairly decent part of the rib cage so far. But like I say, it's a lot of meat there, even for two leopards, and they'll probably continue to feed on it for at least the next 24 hours is my guess. This is where Shadow's hiding. You can just see one or two little spots in there. So she's a bit closer to the kill. Oh, there she is. Well done, Brian. But Roy is moving out now, so we will be able to move into a slightly different position where we'll be able to show you a little bit more. Something important that I have mentioned already, but I'll mention again, is that as Brian zooms out and we look around, the closest marula tree is off to the right, and it's quite some distance away. That's it, the big tree that you can see in the background, not the foreground. So that, yeah, the tree that Brian's zooming into now, that's the closest tree to her, and it's probably about 50 meters away through some very thick bush. And because the kill she's made is a male impala, his horns will get caught on just about everything as she tries to drag it there. Basically, if hyena came onto the scene now, it would be the end of their kill, and she, nor Sindile, would risk confrontation with a hyena. It would be far too risky, and they would therefore abandon the kill. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why hasn't she done this already? It's a good question. I haven't seen her hoist a male impala kill before, so I'm not entirely sure she's capable of it, but she should be able to. It's considerably heavier than she is. It probably weighs 10 or 15 kilograms, 20 or 30 pounds more than she does. And the fact that she has to carry it up a tree, dangling out of her mouth, all that weight, vertically up a tree, you can imagine it's a close to impossible feat. Leopard do have the incredible ability and strength to be able to do it. And what I've also noticed over the years is some leopards will simply not be wise enough to hoist their kills, even if they are small. The female from the south of the Sabi Sands, who's no longer alive, but she was a legend, called the Ravenscourt female. She was notorious for not hoisting her kills, even if they were small, like a duiker or a steenbuck. Even when she had cubs, they would feed on the ground. A hugely dangerous place for the cubs to be, in case hyena or any predators come surging in to the smell of the carcass. But I haven't viewed Shadow enough to know whether this is one of her traits. The good thing is we can spend the next half an hour or so establishing, or hopefully seeing, what she may do with it. As darkness falls, she will know that there's a greater threat of hyena coming to the kill, whereas during the day she would know that there's a small chance. And darkness is beginning to fall, so maybe this will induce her to make a move. It'll be really interesting to see her battle to drag this carcass through the bush. And it'll be interesting to see where she decides to go, if she does. What I'm going to suggest is that we reposition quickly, and then we can show you another angle and also be in a better position in case anything does happen or anything does come towards the kill. Not a bad way to start the weekend. I'm told it's Friday, and this is really, really great stuff. We've been talking about her hunting abilities and her mothering abilities over the last few days, and a lot of you were concerned for Sindile, thinking that he had not eaten enough. Well, now you can all take a deep breath and a sigh of relief, because even if this kill gets stolen now, his belly is full. So it's good to go for at least another week, just on what he's fed from today. Happy there?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you can more clearly see the impala on the bottom right of your screen. It's a little bit gory, but it is nature. So we'll show you a quick little look here. They've eaten a little bit of the rump. That's often an easy entrance point to feed on. And also, as you can see, a lot of the rib cage. The rump and the buttocks is often the first place that they will feed on. It's really difficult to break through this hide. And here's Shadow. She's got her head up and she's very alert. And like I say, she knows that as darkness falls, a lot of hyena are going to start to move around. And I really, really wonder if she will drag this kill off while we're here. It'll be incredible to see if she does. Also to see her strength hoisting it up a tree will be incredible. And we've got very good prospects here. Look at her alertness. It's a very still evening, which is good for her. The scent of this carcass will not be carried very far because there's no wind to transport it. And on top of that, both her and Sandile can hear any potential threats approaching without being confused. If it was windy, just the rustling of the grass and the leaves would make it difficult for them to hear any approaching threats. So it's perfect weather conditions for the two of them. Her belly is also full and you can see her panting deeply. Well, thanks very much for the update that there's one lone elephant at the Arathusa waterhole. But sadly, we are not going to be able to make it there. I really do not want to leave this sighting, and we are only allowed one vehicle to traverse Arathusa at any given point. So because I am here, Brent can sadly not head off there, and I think he's actually a fair distance off from the waterhole anyway, so it would be a little bit late for him to rush across there. But thank you very much for that update. We got a very interesting question through from Granny Billy Joe in Florida. And she would like to know whether it's possible for a leopard to be clever enough to actually chew off the head of a male impala and that way prevent the horns from getting stuck on any branches as they're hoisted away. It's something that I've never seen happen or heard of happening. And it's actually very difficult to chew through even the neck of an impala. Sadly, the way the impala's positioned now, we can't really see the neck, but there's a lot of muscle and meat around that neck. And even to break through the vertebra will be quite tricky. So it's a very interesting theory though, Granny Billy Joe, and I'm glad you've opened it up to all of us to think about, but I've never heard of that happening, and I think it would simply take too long and be too much of an effort. It would probably make more sense to try and feed on as much as she can if she doesn't think she can move it, and try and make a kill another day. Well, you'll notice well, you would have noticed rather that some of the intestines were still evident within the stomach of this impala. That is mainly the rumen, and you can actually see that brown stuff is the rumen, the chewed grass, and that whole bag will be full of grass. So the majority of what you can see is grass, which the leopard will naturally not really want to eat, although sometimes they will feed on some of the skin, the bladder that grass lies in, and that's probably why it's perforated. They will feed on the lungs and the liver and the hearts, which she may have already done. It's hard to see that. I think I can see the kidneys hanging out there, so they're not interested in that, but they will eat certain vital organs, the heart, the lungs, and the liver. But they most prefer the meats of the carcass, and you can even see they've chewed through a fair amount of bone on those ribs. So the smaller, thinner bones they will also chew through. They won't be able to digest that bone like hyena can, and you'll find small shards of bone in their droppings. Whereas hyena's dung, you can powder into a fine dust. They've got an incredibly strong digestive system. Now, the smell of a kill is not a very meaty smell. It's actually, what smells the worst is that rumen or stomach contents of the antelope. And it smells almost like a fermenting grass, you could say. You could almost say it's fermented grass with a small amount of beef stock added in, I guess, would be my way of describing it. Some really cheap and nasty beef stock thrown into a fermenting grass cauldron is the smell, and it can be very, very nauseating. Thankfully, we can't smell it at the moment, but when we were here a little bit earlier, we certainly could. Thankfully, the wind, what little wind there is, has changed ever so slightly. Now, even though not much is happening now, you must be ready to fire off some screenshots, because at any moment, hyena could come onto the scene, she could get up and decide to start dragging the kill. So don't go anywhere, even though it's quite motionless sighting at the moment. And we can't really see Sindile either from where we are, but he's also lying down trying to digest as much of this impala as he can before the next feeding. Usually they feed every 3 hours to 4 hours, depending, small chunks at a time. They are in the fortunate position that they can take their time to feed. This is not a good example of it because the kill's not up a tree in a safe place, but if it was, they don't have to feed as rapidly as cheetah, for example, or possibly even lion, who are competing with other pride members. So they can take a little bit more time to relax and enjoy their bounty. What you heard there. Liv from Brooklyn has asked an interesting question. She would like to know, why has Shadow not got Sindile up a tree, and would that not be her first priority rather than getting the impala up the tree? Lev, Sindile is a big boy now. He's 12 months old, or approaching 12 months of age, and the fact that he even spends most of his days alone is testament to the fact that he can make decisions on his own. And if he couldn't, he would no longer be alive. So if he heard anything approaching, it would be his job to get himself up a tree, and she will do her job to get herself up a tree. She is not going to risk injury to herself in a situation like that. That he needs to work out for himself, and he will make his own plan, or he'll do his best to, and she will decide to do whatever she thinks best. She won't try and hoist this kill now, I doubt. I mean, she could try and get it up into the small tree that they're lying next to, but it's not going to be a very good spot. So it would make for very interesting viewing, because the hyena would try and scramble up there afterwards. Just got a question through from Matt in Texas, and this is the tree that you could try and hoist the kill into potentially. Matt, just to clear up, you mentioned that he may become, or pick up a bad habit of not hoisting kills into trees because she doesn't, and I never said she doesn't, and I'm not sure if you know for a fact that she doesn't, but it's just this specific instance where she hasn't. The first time and last time I saw her on a kill, it was up in a tree. It was a smaller kill and easier to get up there, but I'm not convinced that she's necessarily one of those leopards who will not hoist kills all the time. So we must just clear that up from the get-go. And I don't think he would necessarily pick up that bad habits. I've seen leopards growing up from mothers, the specific female, the Ravenscourt female, who would always hoist their kills, even though their mother wasn't good at doing it. So I think they kind of learned themselves that it makes sense to do it. And interesting how occasionally you find leopards that won't. So I don't think Sindile has anything to worry about. And again, it's important to stress the fact that it's not necessarily a habit that she is responsible for creating. What a beautiful sky. That's Venus, and Jupiter you can see ever so slightly at the top of your screen. And Kathleen in Tennessee would like to know if hyena will vocalize and make a loud noise before coming into a kill. Will they come in silently? Usually they come in silently. They don't know what's going to be there. Often they can only smell maybe the meat or the carcass until they get closer by. Maybe they could smell the leopard on the way in if they came in on the tracks of the leopard and the scent of the leopard. So that is possible, and hyena will follow leopard's scent, knowing that they could find a kill at the end of it. But they usually approach in complete silence. Once they get you, however, it could be a very different scenario, and depending on the individual clan of hyena and the scenario, you can often hear loud whooping, cackling, and a lot of interaction between the hyena, often as they squabble over it. So all we would hear as we sit here is footsteps rustling through the dry leaf litter and grass, and we would see a very nervous leopard with cocked ears. We'd probably notice her body language detecting something before we can hear anything. So she will alert us to anything approaching before we will know about it. Gilly from Milwaukee would like to know if leopard ever drag their kill from the rear end or always from the neck, and it's always from the neck as far as I've seen. It's the easiest grip for them to be able to walk with. And that way the horns will be slightly elevated off the ground, so less chance of it getting snagged, but it's still a bit tricky. So it is the easiest way for them to do it, and it's the only way that I've ever seen leopards hoisting kills. They usually grab it underneath the throat, underneath the jaw, on the underside of the neck, and that's how they will drag it as well as hoist it up into the tree. Iodine from Virginia. That's a name I haven't heard before. Good to have you with us. Iodine would like to know if at any stage Shadow would possibly take Cindelia on a hunt with her. And I guess potentially through default it may happen as he becomes a bit older, and it potentially has already happened as they move from one place to another. They may come across something, and who knows, fortune may have it that she could chase Impala towards him, or him chase Impala towards her. So it could well have happened, but it usually doesn't, and it's not a typical thing that you would see, like she's decided now that she can take him to teach him how to hunt. It's something that they will instinctively teach themselves growing up, spending time alone. While she is out hunting for the real food, he'll be chasing whatever he can around him, whatever catches his attention, and that way hone his skills. So I don't think it's a planned or an actively worked out thing that a mother leopard would do at a certain stage of a youngster's life. It may happen through default though. Okay, well, it sounds like Brent's found a really beautiful spot that he would like to share with you. So we're going to send you across to him, and we'll be waiting here for you when you're done.
Welcome back, guys. So what we're doing now is I'm still convinced that Crew lives in this area. So we've stopped. Something is really upsetting those lapwings. Just gonna have a quick look what. It could be maybe a side-striped jackal, could be a white-tailed mongoose, could be a leopard. What I was going to say, we've been sitting quietly and wanted to enjoy the sunset with you, but as I said, you never know what can happen out here. Let's try to find where the lapwings are. Can you see them? There's one. They're incredibly upset with something, and they seem to be looking this direction. Looking that way. Yeah, that alarm call. We've been discussing alarm calls quite a lot today. What was that? I think that is what they spotted. I didn't get a good view, but it looked like a genet. Let's see if we can sneak a bit closer. No, not a genet. That was just a scrub here. I just saw the little eye. Let's try find Okay, guys, we're going to cross back to squad quickly. There's an excitement on its way.
Welcome back, everyone, and sorry to rush you away from the chase, but something is here. We're not sure what, but she's heard something, and on 2 occasions now she's hissed in disgust in that direction. So we had to rush you back here. Something could come charging in at any moment, and we're just going to wait and see. Okay, well, we are just going to keep you here for a minute or two, and then we'll get you back to Brent. I don't know what it could be, but she hissed in a manner of disgust in that direction, and it's often what they'll do towards hyena. Possibly it was just the thought of a hyena approaching that caused her to do that. Well, I think we might send you back to Brent and his high-paced action. If anything else happens, we will keep you posted. Although I've just got a message that the lapwing appeared to be cooling off, and Brent's not feeling as positive as he was a bit earlier. So you can stay with us. And maybe she's going to decide to try and move this kill now. The fact that she must have thought something may have been there for her to hiss makes me wonder why she hasn't thought about trying to move this kill. And this is all interesting behavior that we're learning about her. I've never seen her in a scenario like this, with a kill of this size. Actually, the first time I saw both her and him, he was probably half the size, or even slightly smaller than he is now, was on the western side of Arethusa, and she had killed a young impala that she had hoisted up a knobthorn tree. He had to spend, I think, 2 or 3 days up in that tree because there were hyena below, so it must have been a really uncomfortable 3 days for him, but he survived. And that was the first time I saw them many, many months ago, probably in December or January. Andre in Florida, and it sounds like a lot of you are watching in Florida today, so good to know that this SafariLive is spreading through Florida. Andre said, how many hyena would these 2 leopard be able to defend the kill against? Not even one. If one hyena came into this sighting, into this scenario, these 2 leopards would disappear out of sight and up a tree. They may linger around in the area in the hope that they could come back and steal some bits of the kill, so they'll often hang around in the hope that they can get a few more scraps, but they won't take the risk even if it's only one hyena approaching. Hyena are considerably bigger than female leopards, and certainly Sindile, the young male, but even fully grown adult leopards will seldom risk an altercation with hyena. Even a big male in his prime may often give up a kill rather than fighting. I've even seen some bizarre footage of a leopard and a hyena co-feeding on an impala, so feeding at the exact same time with one another. So some strange things do happen out here. Rosie and Lisa are interested to know, where is Sindile? And I'm fairly certain he's still where we left him. But it's difficult. Yeah, I can see his tail in there, I think. So he is lying up just where we left him a little bit earlier, just on the other side of this bush. Thankfully, because it is very dry at this time of the year, they'll easily be able to hear any potential threats approaching. And again, it's a very still evening, so that, coupled with the dry conditions, means they'll be able to hear hyena coming from a long way off. So they've got nothing to worry about. And we've got good news. Those crowned lapwings certainly were shouting at something. Let's go find out. Goodbye.
Welcome back, guys. Perseverance pays off. VM and I have worked this area, and we've got a leopard. I'm not sure who it is yet, and it looks like a young male, actually. Oh, no, maybe not. I'm actually not 100% sure who this is yet. It could even be Shadow by the looks of things, but it is definitely not a young male. No, sorry, not Shadow. Sorry, I know where Shadow is. Not thinking, but I'm not sure which leopard this is. I'm trying to get around the front. I know I just need to get a hold of Lex quickly because he's been helping me all afternoon in this area. Let's have a look. I'm not sure who this is just yet. Once you guys, if you guys can get a screenshot, obviously driving and shining a spotlight can prove to be difficult. Lex. Lex, I've got an Ingwe out there to get down if you're in the area. Where did it disappear? Ingwe, I'm not sure which one. I've got to tell it down. Over. It's just disappeared into. Oh, maybe that's why it disappeared. Let's just have a quick look. Well, obviously, watch behind me there for me. I think it might have spotted a little scrub here, and that is what could have made it stop. This is the last spot we saw. There he is. Oh, yeah. So guys, we're 30 seconds out. We are going to extend a little bit so we can just try to figure out who this is, and we will be. For those of you who have to leave now, really thanks very much for joining us, and we will definitely let you know who this is. It's on the northern side of Gowrie Dam, at the dam itself. So it does look like a young male, quite a hungry guy at the moment, quite a concave belly he's got there. Obviously, while driving and shining the spotlight, I haven't really had a chance to try get any identifying features. So you guys, if you can, that would be a great help. Looks like he's looking for something. He's up and down, up and down. So let's see if he's going to pop out into the open on the other side of this again. Oh, he just ran after a scrub hare, ran towards him. He just missed it. That was very close. I'm not sure who this is at all. Animals now moving directly towards the Weir telecamp. FM. So it's definitely not the female we were tracking earlier, but it is great that I knew there had to be a leopard somewhere in this area, and I think VM has been telling me that my guinea fowl feather was unlucky because the guinea fowl got eaten. So what do you say now, VM? I think it's a lucky guinea fowl feather.
Because it blew away.
It didn't blow away, it's still in my hat.
Mine blew away.
Oh, yours blew away. Oh, I can see some eyes. It looks like possibly an Inyala or a bushbuck ahead. Lex, there's an access point directly opposite me where you can drive down into here. So we're going to stay with him a little longer. I think I can see, it looks like an Inyala in front. So hold on, guys, this is a bit bumpy here, so I just want to see what's going on. I don't want to lose him. Hi family, I've got a young one doing Ingwe in front of the telecom, 3 stations here. I'm not going to be staying too long. Copy is heading in that general direction at the moment. Okay, we can stand by there. So it seems like some people think it's Kunyuma. I'm not sure yet. I haven't had a good enough look at him yet. But I hope it is. Well, for me, it's a little bit small. And you can hear Monkey's alarm calling at him over our shoulders. I'm just going to let Lex go on ahead of me. Keep going. really, or you can stand by in the drainage line, and I'll make space for you. Hey, firm. Sorry, guys, isn't that really exciting? So it is definitely a young male, and we're going to let the other vehicle stay with him now. There's another vehicle that's coming in, but we managed to find that leopard after quite a bit of perseverance. Liam and I did spend a lot of time in this area. So Scott, just a word from Scott. That he had to actually leave the sighting of Sandila and Shadow with the other vehicles coming in. So he will definitely be going back to follow up on that in the morning. And I'm definitely going to be coming and looking for this guy again. So really interesting to find out who it could be. So really exciting times. And thank you to my guinea fowl feather. So thanks very much for joining us on the Sunset Safari. It's been a spotty one with spotted feathers and spotted cats. So really great Sunset Safari. We really do appreciate all your questions. Please keep sending them. If there are any new viewers, welcome. We do really wish you will join us tomorrow for the sunrise and sunset safaris. From all of us here at Wild Earth, and from Scott and Brian and Nikki, Tara, Eugene, and VM and myself, have a splendid evening or day wherever you might be in the world, and we'll catch you on the Sunrise Safari. Good night.